Rediscovering your own value and worth is a powerful journey that begins when you make the choice to stop looking outward for validation and start looking inward. Too often, we fall into the trap of seeking approval from others to feel that we're enough. Whether it's through chasing a relationship, bending over backward to gain acceptance, or putting ourselves second to fulfill someone else's desires, this constant pursuit of external affirmation only weakens our sense of self. When we rely on others to make us feel valued, we're giving them control over our happiness. Rediscovering your own value means taking back that control, acknowledging that your worth is inherent and unchangeable no matter who comes in or out of your life. Understanding your value starts with a quiet, honest self-reflection. This isn't about identifying what others like about you or seeing yourself through someone else's eyes. It's about connecting deeply with who you are and realizing that your qualities, values, and essence have real importance. Take a moment to think about what you bring into any relationship or situation: the kindness, the empathy, the humor, the hard work, and the willingness to be there for others. These aren't qualities that someone else gives you. They are what you carry within yourself, and they are expressions of your true worth. The challenge is that in a world filled with social media and constant comparisons, it's easy to feel that our value is dependent on the recognition we receive from others. When you measure yourself against someone else's expectations or achievements, you lose sight of your unique strengths. Rediscovering your value means stepping away from the noise and coming back to what truly matters to you. It means understanding that you don't need to beg or chase for someone's attention because your presence alone is enough. If someone doesn't recognize that, it doesn't reduce your worth. It simply means that they're not in a position to appreciate it fully. Part of realizing your worth involves setting boundaries. Boundaries are a way of protecting your energy and ensuring that you're not giving away pieces of yourself to people who don't value you. When you chase after someone, you're often compromising your boundaries, putting their needs above your own in the hopes that they'll reciprocate. However, this pattern only leads to resentment and disappointment. Rediscovering your worth involves honoring your own limits and making choices that support your well-being. Boundaries are a reminder to yourself that your needs matter and that your self-respect comes before anyone else's approval. Another critical aspect of this journey is self-compassion. Often people struggle with self-worth because they're too hard on themselves. They focus on their perceived flaws and shortcomings, which creates a cycle of self-criticism that erodes their sense of value. Practicing self-compassion involves treating yourself with the same kindness and understanding that you would extend to a friend. It's about recognizing that you're human, that you're allowed to make mistakes, and that these mistakes don't define your worth. By speaking to yourself with compassion and letting go of the harsh judgments, you'll find that your sense of self naturally becomes stronger and more resilient. Rediscovering your value doesn't happen overnight. It's a gradual process that involves making intentional choices every day. It might look like choosing to spend time alone to understand yourself better rather than rushing into a relationship. Or it might mean taking a step back from relationships where you feel unappreciated, realizing that being alone is better than compromising your self-worth. Over time, these choices build a foundation of confidence and inner peace that makes you less dependent on external validation. Ultimately, rediscovering your worth empowers you to stand on your own, knowing that you're enough just as you are. It gives you the confidence to walk away from situations that don't serve you, knowing that your value isn't tied to anyone's approval. This journey of self-rediscovery is about reclaiming the love and respect you deserve, starting with yourself. When you realize your own worth, you attract people who appreciate you, not for what you do for them, but for who you are. You begin to surround yourself with relationships that are built on mutual respect and genuine connection. Rediscovering your value is the first step to building a fulfilling and resilient relationship with yourself, one that doesn't depend on anyone else's approval or recognition. Building emotional independence is one of the most powerful steps you can take on your journey of personal growth and self-worth. It's about learning to meet your own emotional needs and not relying solely on others for validation, happiness, or a sense of completeness. So many people fall into the trap of believing that someone else can complete them, that love from another person will fill any gaps they feel within themselves. However, true emotional independence teaches us that while love, companionship, and relationships can enhance our lives, they should never define or sustain our sense of self-worth. The moment we become dependent on another person for our happiness, we lose the ability to live fully on our own terms. Developing emotional independence doesn't mean you don't care for others or that you live a life without relationships. Rather, it means that you know how to fulfill your own emotional needs so that your relationships become balanced and healthy rather than attachments born of need or insecurity. One of the first steps in building emotional independence is self-acceptance. When you are content and secure within yourself, you feel whole. People who lack self-acceptance often seek it from others, hoping that external validation will fill the void they feel within. But validation is fleeting, and it can never fully satisfy. When you learn to accept and appreciate yourself with all your flaws and strengths, you become your own foundation. You recognize that you're enough on your own. Self-acceptance means letting go of the need to seek permission or approval to feel worthy. It's understanding that your value doesn't fluctuate based on someone else's opinion of you. This solid sense of self forms the foundation for emotional independence, enabling you to go through life with greater confidence and resilience, unaffected by the highs and lows of other people's reactions or opinions. Another essential aspect of emotional independence is learning to manage your own emotions. Rather than depending on others to make you feel better, secure, or valued, you start to take responsibility for how you feel. This isn't easy. It requires self-awareness and the willingness to confront uncomfortable emotions rather than avoiding or projecting them onto others. Emotional independence involves recognizing when you feel sad, lonely, or insecure and knowing how to support yourself in those moments. Rather than running to someone else to ease your discomfort, you develop tools, whether it's journaling, meditation, or taking time for yourself to process and move through those feelings. This self-soothing ability doesn't mean that you shut people out when you're feeling vulnerable, but rather that you understand your feelings are your responsibility. By practicing this, you prevent yourself from developing unhealthy dependencies on others to feel okay or good enough. The third part of building emotional independence also involves shifting your mindset from one of scarcity to one of abundance. A scarcity mindset can lead us to believe that there's only so much love, happiness, or connection available, making us cling desperately to relationships or people that may not be right for us. An abundance mindset, on the other hand, recognizes that there is more than enough for everyone, that you don't need to settle for relationships that drain you or make you feel small. Emotional independence means having the courage to walk away from relationships that don't serve you, knowing that you'll be okay on your own and that there are fulfilling relationships out there waiting for you when the time is right. Building emotional independence also brings a stronger sense of self-respect. You learn to set boundaries not because you want to distance yourself from others, but because you understand that your energy and well-being are worth protecting. When you respect yourself and prioritize your well-being, you naturally attract people who will do the same. Emotional independence means you are not afraid to communicate what you need and expect from a relationship, and you're not afraid to walk away if those needs aren't respected. This confidence and self-respect allow you to build healthier, more reciprocal relationships rather than settling for connections that feel one-sided or transactional. In becoming emotionally independent, you ultimately create a life that is fulfilling and meaningful on your own terms. You become your own best source of comfort, encouragement, and love. This kind of independence doesn't mean rejecting relationships. Instead, it means you approach them from a place of wholeness rather than lack. When you can enjoy your own company, find happiness within yourself, and meet your own needs, relationships become a choice rather than a necessity. You are free to choose connections that enhance your life rather than feeling as though you need them to survive. By nurturing your own emotional independence, you'll find that your relationships improve, becoming partnerships between two whole individuals who respect, appreciate, and genuinely enjoy each other's presence. Emotional independence empowers you to live authentically, unafraid of solitude, and content in knowing that you are enough just as you are. Developing self-worth is one of the most powerful investments you can make in yourself, and it's foundational to living a fulfilling, purpose-driven life. When we have a strong sense of self-worth, we recognize our inherent value independent of external validation or the approval of others. This doesn't mean we see ourselves as perfect or infallible. Instead, it means we understand our intrinsic worth and embrace ourselves with all our strengths and weaknesses. Self-worth is the anchor that keeps us grounded in who we are, no matter what storms come our way. It is a steady belief that we are enough, and this belief shapes the quality of our relationships, our goals, and our overall outlook on life. A strong sense of self-worth is essential because it is what keeps us from compromising ourselves for the approval of others. When we lack self-worth, we tend to base our sense of value on external factors, how others perceive us, whether or not we receive praise, or if we're meeting society's standards. We may even engage in behaviors that go against our values or ignore our true needs just to feel accepted or validated by others. But self-worth teaches us to look within for that validation rather than seeking it outside of ourselves. When we know our worth, we don't feel compelled to conform or people please, nor do we seek approval from sources that may not have our best interests at heart. We learn to live authentically, guided by our values and inner compass rather than external pressures. Another important aspect of self-worth is that it allows us to set healthy boundaries. When we value ourselves, we understand that our time, energy, and well-being are worth protecting. Boundaries are not about creating distance or isolation, rather they're about preserving what's most important to us. When we respect ourselves enough to establish clear boundaries, we also teach others how to treat us. Those who don't respect our boundaries may not have a place in our lives, and self-worth gives us the courage to let go of such connections without guilt or fear. People with strong self-worth understand that it's better to be alone than in relationships that drain or belittle them. They have the confidence to walk away from situations that don't honor their values, knowing that their worth isn't tied to anyone else's approval. Self-worth is also the foundation of resilience. Life is filled with challenges, disappointments, and setbacks, and if we don't have a strong sense of self-worth, these experiences can easily make us feel inadequate or unworthy. However, when we know our worth, we view challenges differently. We see them as opportunities for growth rather than reflections of our value. We understand that our worth isn't diminished by failure or mistakes, and this belief enables us to bounce back with greater strength and determination. Self-worth helps us separate who we are from what we experience. Instead of defining ourselves by our struggles, we view them as stepping stones that bring us closer to our true potential. One of the most profound impacts of self-worth is that it allows us to be kinder to ourselves. People who lack self-worth are often their own harshest critics, constantly judging and second-guessing themselves. But self-worth fosters self-compassion. It encourages us to see ourselves with gentle, understanding eyes. We learn to forgive ourselves for our mistakes, to acknowledge our efforts even when the results aren't perfect, and to appreciate ourselves simply for being who we are. This self-compassion helps us grow because we create an environment within ourselves that is safe, supportive, and nurturing. Instead of tearing ourselves down, we build ourselves up, becoming our own biggest supporters. Building self-worth also enables us to pursue our goals and dreams without fear of judgment or failure. When we believe in our worth, we're less likely to be held back by self-doubt. We're willing to take risks, to step out of our comfort zones, and to go after what truly fulfills us because we know we deserve it. Self-worth isn't about arrogance or entitlement, it's about having a quiet confidence that allows us to go after our dreams with purpose and persistence. We know that our value isn't defined by our achievements, but that doesn't stop us from striving for greatness. We approach our goals with passion and resilience, understanding that the journey is as valuable as the destination. Self-worth is the foundation of self-love. It's about embracing ourselves fully and unconditionally. When we have a healthy sense of self-worth, we recognize that we are deserving of love, respect, and kindness, not just from others, but from ourselves. Self-love radiates outward, influencing the way we treat others and the kind of relationships we build. People who respect themselves naturally attract respect from others because they carry themselves with dignity and confidence. They're not afraid to be themselves, to speak their truth, or to stand up for what they believe in. They don't need to pretend or put on a facade to feel valued. They know their worth and live it every day. Ultimately, developing self-worth transforms our lives from the inside out. It empowers us to live with integrity, to pursue our dreams without fear, and to build relationships that uplift and inspire us. With self-worth, we become the architects of our own happiness, creating a life that reflects our true values and passions. This is the power of knowing our worth that gives us the freedom to be fully, unapologetically ourselves. One of the most empowering actions we can take is to give ourselves space to reflect and find clarity in silence. Silence is an often overlooked but powerful tool that allows us to connect with our inner voice and the essence of who we are. In a world constantly filled with noise, distractions, and the influence of others, intentionally choosing silence is like hitting a reset button on our minds and emotions. This quiet time can become the foundation for growth, strength, and authentic self-understanding. When we take a step back and immerse ourselves in silence, it's as though we are giving ourselves permission to listen to our own thoughts, needs, and truths without interference. In these moments, we can begin to differentiate between our authentic desires and the expectations or opinions that may have been imposed on us by others. This silence helps us recognize what truly resonates with us, allowing us to gain clarity on what we genuinely want in life. It is during these quiet moments that we learn the most about ourselves because there is no pressure to perform, no outside demands to meet, and no voices other than our own to consider. This inner connection can be incredibly healing and can lead us to better understand our motivations, goals, and values. Taking a step back from constant interaction and communication doesn't mean we are isolating ourselves in a negative sense. Rather, it is a form of self-respect. It means recognizing when we need to replenish our mental and emotional reserves and respecting that need by withdrawing temporarily. This is especially important if we have been giving a lot of ourselves to others or have been in situations where we felt drained or overlooked. When we step back, we reclaim our energy, allowing us to regain strength and perspective. This is an act of self-love because it prioritizes our well-being and reminds us that we deserve moments to focus solely on ourselves without guilt. In silence, we also become more attuned to our intuition, which is an invaluable guide in navigating life. Intuition often speaks to us softly in whispers that can be easily drowned out by the noise of everyday life. When we silence that external noise, we create space for these whispers to come through clearly. We can hear our instincts more vividly, sense what feels right and what doesn't, and trust ourselves on a deeper level. This strengthened connection to our intuition helps us make decisions that are aligned with our true self, rather than choices that are based on fleeting emotions or external pressure. It builds a confidence within us that we can rely on, a confidence that says, I know what's best for me. Sometimes our withdrawal and silence will naturally draw others toward us. People are often intrigued by those who are comfortable in their own presence, and our decision to pull back can serve as a reminder that our energy and attention are valuable and not to be taken for granted. By not chasing after others and instead nurturing our own well-being, we indirectly communicate that we are whole within ourselves, that our happiness isn't dependent on anyone else. This can prompt others to reconsider how they view and treat us, realizing that they need to make an effort to be in our lives. When we focus on cultivating our inner world, it changes the energy we emit, often attracting people who respect our boundaries and appreciate our authenticity. Choosing silence can also allow us to observe our relationships and interactions more objectively. When we step back, we gain a fresh perspective on who genuinely values us and who may have been relying on us to fulfill their needs without reciprocating. This pause can reveal patterns we may have previously overlooked, showing us where our energy was being drained or where boundaries were being crossed. With this clarity, we become empowered to make healthier choices about who we allow into our lives and how much of ourselves we are willing to give. This awareness can lead us to form connections that are mutually respectful and fulfilling, rather than one-sided or draining. Stepping back and staying silent doesn't mean we are giving up on relationships or isolating ourselves permanently. Instead, it's a strategic pause, a chance to reflect, to heal, and to rejuvenate. It's about taking a break from constant giving and reminding ourselves that we deserve moments of peace and introspection. This silence is a way of valuing ourselves and our own inner journey, allowing us to emerge with a clearer sense of who we are and what we want from our interactions with others. Ultimately, silence is a powerful tool that can help us realign with our true selves, strengthen our boundaries, and attract people who genuinely respect us. It's an act of self-respect and empowerment, one that reminds us that we don't need to chase after love, validation, or approval. By simply stepping back, staying silent, and focusing on our own growth, we create a space where only those who truly appreciate us will make the effort to be present in our lives. One of the most profound actions we can take in our journey towards self-respect and personal empowerment is establishing and enforcing our own boundaries. Boundaries are essential. They define what is acceptable to us and what isn't. They allow us to communicate our needs to others while staying true to ourselves, preventing us from overextending or compromising on our core values. Healthy boundaries create a sense of balance and respect in our lives, ensuring that we aren't depleted or taken advantage of by others. When we enforce boundaries, we send a clear message that our time, energy, and emotional well-being are valuable. This isn't about being unkind or shutting people out, rather, it's about protecting our mental and emotional space and showing respect for our own needs. We often give so much of ourselves to others, whether through time, advice, emotional support, or other resources. But if we constantly give without setting limits, we risk becoming overwhelmed and resentful. Boundaries allow us to care for ourselves in a way that ensures we don't lose ourselves in the process of helping others. They act as a framework for self-care, reminding us that it's okay and necessary to say no when we need to. In many ways, boundaries are an expression of self-love. They communicate that we believe we are deserving of respect and consideration. When we set boundaries, we prioritize our well-being and safeguard our inner peace. These limits act as a reminder to others that our kindness and availability aren't infinite and shouldn't be taken for granted. By valuing ourselves in this way, we teach others to value us too. People will often treat us the way we allow them to, so by setting clear boundaries, we establish a standard of respect in our relationships. Those who truly care about us will understand and honor these boundaries, while those who don't respect them may drift away. This is a natural way of filtering out people who aren't in alignment with our growth. Setting boundaries also empowers us to move away from people and situations that are toxic or draining. There are times when we may be surrounded by individuals who don't bring positivity or support into our lives. These people might constantly rely on us without reciprocating, or they may bring negative energy that leaves us feeling stressed or depleted. By enforcing boundaries, we protect ourselves from the effects of such relationships. We create distance from negativity, allowing us to maintain our mental and emotional well-being. This isn't always easy, especially if we care deeply about those individuals, but it is essential for our growth. It enables us to focus on the relationships that uplift us and respect our boundaries. Sometimes we worry that setting boundaries will push people away or make them see us as less caring or supportive. But the reality is that boundaries often strengthen relationships. They provide clarity about what we can and cannot offer, which reduces misunderstandings and resentment. When we are clear about our limits, people know what to expect from us and can appreciate our contributions without expecting too much. Boundaries make interactions more authentic as we are giving from a place of genuine willingness rather than out of obligation or guilt. They allow us to show up in our relationships in a more balanced and sincere way. Having boundaries also teaches others how to have their own. By modeling self-respect and assertiveness, we can inspire those around us to adopt healthier practices in their own lives. Our actions can demonstrate that it's okay to prioritize one's well-being and to value oneself enough to say no. People who may have struggled with setting boundaries themselves can learn from our example and realize that self-care is not selfish but essential. This can lead to more balanced and respectful relationships all around, as both parties understand the importance of honoring each other's limits. In the end, boundaries are not barriers, they are bridges to healthier, more fulfilling relationships. By establishing what is acceptable and what is not, we create an environment where we can thrive without fear of being overwhelmed or taken advantage of. Boundaries allow us to maintain our integrity and self-respect while still engaging meaningfully with others. They empower us to cultivate a life where our needs are met and our peace is preserved. And as we continue to enforce these boundaries with confidence, we not only strengthen our inner selves, but also attract people who truly respect us for who we are. This journey of setting and honoring boundaries becomes a powerful foundation for growth, resilience, and genuine happiness. One of the most liberating realizations in life is understanding that we don't need to constantly prove ourselves or fight for validation from others. Many of us spend our days tirelessly striving for acceptance, approval, and recognition from people around us, feeling that our worth depends on their acknowledgement. But the truth is, the validation that genuinely matters comes from within. When we stop seeking approval from others, we step into our own power, finding peace and fulfillment that no external opinion can give. In a world filled with social expectations and judgments, it's easy to fall into the habit of seeking external validation. We're influenced from an early age to care about how others see us, to act in ways that will win praise, and to conform to norms that may not even resonate with us. Over time, this can become exhausting and even harmful as we start to lose sight of who we really are and what we genuinely want. Our decisions may become more about pleasing others than aligning with our true selves, and we may find ourselves living inauthentic lives, disconnected from our deepest values and desires. To break free from this cycle, we have to begin the process of looking inward and cultivating a strong sense of self-worth. Self-worth is not about being the best or receiving praise from others. It's about knowing our own value and being at peace with who we are, flaws and all. When we reach this level of self-acceptance, the opinions of others lose their power over us. We no longer feel the need to impress or to live up to expectations that aren't ours. Instead, we become content in our own skin, confident in our own abilities, and unshaken by external opinions. This freedom from seeking approval is transformative, allowing us to experience a deeper level of happiness and self-assurance. When we focus on our own validation, we become stronger, more resilient individuals. Life has a way of testing us, and people's opinions can be fickle. They can change based on circumstances, trends, or misunderstandings. If we rely on these external sources for our happiness and confidence, we're setting ourselves up for disappointment and self-doubt. But when our confidence comes from within, it is steadfast. It allows us to weather criticism, to take risks without fear, and to pursue our passions and goals even if others don't understand or support them. Our inner strength becomes our compass, guiding us in a direction that feels right for us, regardless of how others perceive it. There is a profound sense of peace that comes from releasing the need to prove ourselves. Imagine going through life with a quiet confidence, knowing that you don't need to explain or justify your choices. You trust yourself, you believe in your own abilities, and you make decisions based on what feels true to you. This doesn't mean we ignore feedback or refuse to grow, but it means we listen with discernment, taking in what's useful without letting it define us. This kind of peace allows us to live more authentically, as we're no longer held back by the fear of judgment or the pressure to conform. One of the beautiful things that happens when we stop seeking approval is that we start to attract people who resonate with us on a deeper level. When we're authentic, we connect with others in a genuine way. We no longer waste energy on those who only like the version of us that was trying to please them. Instead, we form bonds with people who appreciate us for who we really are, who support us on our journey, and who bring positivity into our lives. These are the connections that truly enrich us, bringing joy and depth to our experiences. Letting go of the need for approval is not always easy. It requires courage and a commitment to self-acceptance. But with time, this shift in mindset allows us to live a more meaningful and fulfilling life. We become the architects of our own happiness, and we give ourselves permission to pursue our dreams without hesitation. We learn to value our own voice, to trust our own path, and to embrace who we are, free from the constraints of other people's opinions. In the end, living without the constant need for validation is one of the greatest gifts we can give ourselves. It's a path to true freedom, to genuine self-love, and to the kind of happiness that can't be shaken by the external world. By embracing this mindset, we open ourselves to a life filled with peace, purpose, and joy.